Hi, I'm Chris, and this is the Run Your Mind podcast, where we focus on the mindset and mental well-being side of running and fitness. Each episode brings you insights to help you build a healthy mindset with honest conversations and practical tools that you can use in your own fitness journey, giving you what you need to work on your mind, not just your mileage.
You don't need to be at a start line if you don't want that. However, if you do, something that you can do is...
On today's episode, I'm joined by Lara Sullivan, and we're talking about neurodiversity in relation to running and fitness. Lara will be sharing why she believes movement can be so beneficial for those who are neurodivergent, how you can prepare for and deal with your own race days, what running communities can do to ensure neurodiverse individuals feel welcome, and some tips to self-regulating. Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode of the Run Your Mind podcast. Today I'm joined by Lara. Lara, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you all, and happy to be here.
Good. Well, for people that are watching this who maybe aren't familiar with who you are, do you mind giving them a bit of an overview initially?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Lara. I got diagnosed with autism 2 years ago, which was the main reason why I started running, I guess. So I got diagnosed and was kind of feeling quite frustrated by the fact that it took so long. So I went for a run to kind of clear my mind and quickly realised that I wanted to drive awareness on the topic. So I got a bib for the London Marathon to run with the National Autistic Society. And yeah, I had never ran a 5K before, but I loved the process. I loved the routine, the consistency that it gave to me. And I just stayed consistent ever since. So yeah, I speak about my story and my experience online. And I essentially just try to advocate for movement within the autistic community.
And I think, you know, from having seen we connected initially on TikTok, seeing your content, but as I mentioned, my mum works in this space, but wouldn't claim to become far from an expert or aware of it, but I found your content so easily understandable and really enlightening and insightful as well. I think we were talking about before, weren't we, of talking about these topics, and that's the purpose of this podcast, but these types of conversations is to normalise talking about it. 100%. Whether it's for individuals who are neurodiverse or whether you have a friend or a partner or someone in that space too.
Yeah, and I think it's not spoken about enough. There is a massive rise in diagnosis. Yes, amongst women. So 80% of women are diagnosed after the age of 18, which is very interesting. So yeah, I think we should speak more about it. We should drive awareness on it. And
bit of ambience.
And yeah, just drive awareness. People want to learn, and I love that about kind of society, that they're eager to learn more about the topic, so I like to speak about it. Yeah,
well, hopefully we can do that today, and you know, come from a place when, particularly with this area as we were discussing before, is we're not trying to drive any matter of facts here. All you're going to be talking about, and I suppose asking about, is what's helped you in your journey and your perspective for it. So, first question for you. I mean, you know, we talk about, everyone will know, like, running, movement can be beneficial for us all, but what do you think are the added benefits for neurodivergent individuals?
Yeah, it's a great question. So autism is lifelong. There's no cure. It's an invisible disability. And a lot of what we go through is all internal. And it's the way our brain processes things. So some of the things that it helps is, first of all, emotional regulation. So we feel emotions very intensely. And because of that, our nervous system is in fight or flight 24/7. So running is a great way to regulate those emotions. A second one would be sensory processing. So we're very sensitive to different sensory overloads, or, you know, anything like bright noises, texture, anything in that area. So when that builds up over a day or over a week, there needs to be a release. So running can provide that release. And then lastly, it's very much Sorry guys, I'm choking here. And then lastly, it can be around the stimming element. So autistic people, the grand majority stim, and that can be seen from body movements or hand flappings are common ones.
Yep.
But they come in all forms of stimming. What running gives you is that flow state, which is the repetitive movement that can help you calm down, which is the exact same as stimming. So yes, movement and running benefits us all physically, but that's a byproduct. For autistic people, the main benefit is all internal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's sort of taking what we all know movement can be beneficial for is quieting the mind, but on a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what the volume control might be turned up already within how you're feeling or thinking about things. How would you describe then that feeling when you are running? Like
it's
those
like
things,
this
what's the
numbness,
difference?
this quietness, and like in every moment or stage of the day, normally I feel the quietest when I'm at home in my safe space.
Yeah.
And as soon as you step out the door, it's kind of the volume is turned up.
Yeah.
So movement gives me that power of having mental clarity. It's a great way to manage my senses and just move everything that's going on inside and kind of shift the energy. So I've found it as, you know, an incredibly impactful tool for me since my diagnosis.
Yeah, when going back to that, you know, you said running has been so beneficial for you. What advice, I suppose, would you give to people who maybe don't instantly think that could be the case, or maybe a bit hesitant around it?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Like, I've never ran before.
Yeah.
That day that I got diagnosed, and I was like, let me go out and just sprint 100 meters because I'm so angry.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I do say that I ran the London Marathon and I died to run a 5K before, it was so difficult. And I was of those people who thought running wasn't for me, or I'm not capable, I'm not fast enough. But ultimately, I think the important piece is to do it on your own terms.
Yeah.
It's about movement. It's about the mental clarity and the peace that it gives you. It's not about performance necessarily. It can if you want it to be, but it's about that safety space that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah.
To just think clearly and do it, but it can be daunting. And like, we speak about running, but it's about movement. That can be walking, that can be swimming, it can be lifting weights, cycling. It doesn't necessarily need to be running. Another thing that can help as well is just do it around loved ones that can support you on that journey with your kind of safe bubble of people. And something that's common with autistic people is we're very black and white, very 0 to 100, very quick, right? So there would be this tendency of you go for a run and now you're running every day.
Yeah.
Right, but I actually recommend against that, because the biggest piece that they need to think of is routine. And how can you bring that movement into your day-to-day life? And something that helped me was you choose a day, you choose a time, you go out on a Monday, no distance in mind, whatever feels comfortable. And the next week you go again. And bit by bit you bake that into your routine. Before you even know it, you're seeing the benefit of movement. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
I like that. Others as well?
Well, that's a good one, because race day is a nightmare for me. I don't know why sometimes it's self-inflicted pain from the sensory overload, but I still go back because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's really overwhelming. You get really nervous. And the first thing I want to say to that is, not everyone needs to race. You know, like, you can move, you can run. You don't need to be at a start line if you don't want that. However, if you do, something that you can do is predictability. So study that course. There are so many running influencers that do point of view videos. And I don't think they really realize the impact that they have in the autistic community, because what that gives us is the visibility of what to expect on the day, and it's really a helping hand to get more autistic people to the start line.
Yeah.
Second would be have a bit of a sensory plan, if you wish. So if you already know you're going to be overwhelmed,
Yep.
take those headphones, take the cap, the sunglasses, anything that you know might be triggering and something that can help you tame it down. And then thirdly, I don't see enough races having this, but it's great to have a quiet zone before the race and after the race. I know New York Marathon does it, but if it doesn't have it at the race, just find your own area, protect your space, your energy. You're going to be doing something for yourself, so don't have the need to buy into the bubble of excitement and emotion that can be really draining. So yeah, just protect that quiet space.
Yeah.
I would say.
Talking about doing it in your own terms.
Here we are walking.
Here we are walking.
I needed a break, it's too warm.
That was such a, those tips you just gave there, I find so insightful and useful, and part of the question asking what others can learn from that. I think it's what a lot of people, I think, probably going into a race, they almost think is I should get pumped up, I should get this buzz, but maybe sometimes, to your point, that you might benefit from having that quiet space beforehand, just to self-regulate, to tune in, to feel present, and to your point as well, do it on your own terms. Remind yourself that there might be people out there that have all the gear, that are wanting to go really fast, but you can do it at your own pace. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's like, even when we speak about racing, not everyone's racing there. People just do it for the vibes, to have fun, to kind of inspire their family that might have not had movement historically, or it's not something that they've practiced. So it's like everyone should do it on their own terms. No one should be asking, oh, what time, and then pulling a face if it's not something that aligns with their expectations. I think we should also celebrate things that aren't performance-based purely, because for someone that's autistic to stand at the start line and actually complete a race, it's a massive achievement. It's very overwhelming out there for them. So I think it's just being also more self-aware of people, the struggles that they might have, and giving them the space to be themselves is important as well.
I was just going to pause to see whether that ambulance was going to come through, but I think we're good, unless the lights go off. We'll start, and then let me go. You mentioned there about completing a race. What about once that has happened, then what advice would you give for that self-regulation, or post-race, or however you've run it or completed it?
That is such a good question, Chris, because I learned the hard way with this. When I ran London, I was like, I had the restaurant booked for all my family and friends that were out there. I had plans in the evening. All that went out the window. I couldn't process mentally. I was so overwhelmed. I had decision fatigue. There was so many things that all I wanted was to go into my house on my sofa, take a shower, and just chill and talk to nobody. And what happened on the back of that, I couldn't eat anything that wasn't noodle soup for 7 days. Which for breakfast, lunch and dinner was the only form of food that I could take in. And that's a big piece of autistic people as well, is sensitivity to different foods and textures. And when you're very overwhelmed, you kind of go to beige foods, which was my case. So I think that's such an important topic, because we see after London people at the pubs celebrating and going out the next day. I was cheering on Sunday for my mother. Monday was horrible for me, and I didn't even run, because of the crowds and everything. So it's just doing it again on your own terms and giving her the space to recover and to re-regulate back to square one. Take a day off work. Don't go back to work straight away, and just take it easy completely is my recommendation.
And to the sound of that as well, maybe don't make concrete plans afterwards. Maybe do something that you can loosely say, this, I might do this, but I'm going to see how I feel.
And you can tap out if you want to, I think.
And also, from the sound of it, would you say it's being proactive with that energy management as well, and not just waiting until you think social battery's gone or I'm going to feel overwhelmed, but proactively being conscious of how you
and that's
might
something
feel.
that I really try to practice, but I do think it's the hardest thing even for myself.
Yeah.
Because the issue with being autistic is that you only realize you're burnt out once you're burnt out.
Yeah.
So we don't have those signs to tell us you're reaching the limit, you just crash when you've reached the limit.
Yeah.
So I think the proactivity is something that we would all love to practice.
Yep.
And we should strive to practice, but without feeling guilty if we don't reach there, because it's like our brain isn't wired that way. In an ideal world, yes, but it's really hard to achieve that. But I still try personally anyways.
Yeah, is there anything, like one thing that you do that uses, like maybe it's a signal or a sign that you're starting to feel burnt out?
Just the fact that I maybe don't feel really like doing it or going there. I started using the word no much more since I got diagnosed, and it's excellent. I recommend that to everyone. I always lead with no, and if closer to the day I decide it's a yes, then I partake in that event. But the issue is when we say yes, 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 and then you feel obliged to go and partake, and then that's when you're just burning it too short consistently. So just lead with no more often. No one is gonna be annoyed with you. You're protecting your boundaries and your space, and that's what you should do.
And I guess that comes down to, if people are, they're probably not the right people to be around if they are gonna
exactly. And
judge
I think that I was very blessed with my environment. That they were so supportive and wanted to learn with me what autism was. But I do know of a lot of people that unfortunately don't have that experience. They navigate diagnosis alone, and people around them aren't as supportive. So just be aware that just because people around you don't support you doesn't mean that your experiences aren't valid. And maybe find your people, because I've done that as well, and I have great people in my life that I've met after being diagnosed. And they understand me, they love me the way I am, and they contribute to my life and support me through that as well.
Well, it's great to hear that you have that.
I'm lucky. I'm a lucky girl.
So next question for you. We've talked about races, talked about that, we talk about community there, but are there any ways you think the running community could be more welcoming to neurodivergent individuals, whether that's from a run club perspective or other people just being conscious of running with friends?
Yeah, that's so interesting that you asked that, because what I see within the running community is that groups are built or started for a type of person or a group of people, and for them to find that sense of community, which is so valid, and that's why you do it, right? Because you make great friends and you have that sense of familiarity with them and their experiences. But the issue with autism is that it doesn't choose age or gender or ethnicity. So it can be prevalent in any run club, regardless of what type of run club you are. And I think everyone, to some extent, should be aware of that, and just maybe try to learn a couple of things on how to make it inclusive if that's what you want to do, right? So I think something that would be really useful from my experiences is to have maybe a neurodivergent point of contact at a run club. So that can be someone that has learned about it or is neurodivergent themselves. But what that would do is, for a first timer, you have that friendly face that you can ask questions. Even if that person goes to the sessions, you've someone to support you or that you know there. And it's just that helping hand throughout that daunting first social experience when you don't know anyone. So that would be really useful. Second, which I always go on about, is predictability. So if you meet on a Saturday at 8 a.m. in Marble Arch, say, make sure that stays consistent, right, as much as possible. Inform about backdrops. What course are you going to be doing? All these things will make people feel more included and part of the group, and just less challenged when they have to figure out things that are changing or different steps to be part of that room. And lastly, I think this is my personal experience and why I like to talk about it, is it's great to have a buddy system. So I run with London Select, and the running leader, Manny, brought me in because I was already training with him. And I don't know if he knew I was autistic or if he just thought I was a little bit different. But the first session that I joined, he buddied me up with a girl who we had similar paces. She was faster, but similar paces, right? And that was just game changer for me, because I had that person that was a small little group that we made, the both of us on that session. She helped me navigate the session. I've never been on track before, but also she helped me meet other people in the run club. So instantly, that big social question of socializing that I really struggle with was out the window because I had someone navigating that for me. And I think that is so, so important. I don't know if it was intentional, but that was the reason why I'm now a regular, because he did that small gesture that changed everything for me. And turns out she was my neighbour and now we're really good friends.
Oh,
so yeah,
perfect.
it was, I think that's the main thing. But ultimately, no one has a manual, right? On how to be inclusive. It is difficult to understand. How do you do something that's inclusive when everyone has a different experience within the spectrum and being neurodivergent, right? But I think the most important piece is ask autistic voices. I know for myself, I love when people want to learn. I love when people are curious and want to just understand my experience, what it's like to be, how can they learn more? And I always think that if you're going to be talking about inclusivity and having autistic voices, have them at the table as well, because I know I'm happy to talk about it, but I'm sure many other people are as well.
Yeah, it's such a good point, isn't it? I think a lot of people spend time thinking, how can we be more inclusive? How can we do this? And it starts with going out to people who are part of that community and asking them for feedback on, and that comes back to what we were speaking about earlier on, is talking about these things, not ignoring, not making it the elephant in the room and thinking, oh, we can't talk about this, or we're going to offend this person.
It's okay to say the wrong thing as long as you come from a place of wanting to learn. It's not my job to educate, because I'm not the know-all of autism. I'm learning as well every single day, but whereas possible from my experience and what it's like to be autistic, I'm always open to share and help other people learn. So yeah, just include more autistic people on the table is what I would say.
Great. I'm loving everything what you're saying, by the way. It's such an informative conversation for me.
I'm glad.
So thank you.
No, of course.
We haven't even finished. We might have touched on this a bit, but maybe if there's anything else, but what's something people might not realise or take for granted about what it's like to be autistic and going for a run?
That's a loaded one, because I feel like there's this thing of you put a pair of trainers and off you go out. It's not that simple. So a big thing within being autistic is executive functioning. So that's one of the things that they look at when they diagnose, among so many other things. But what executive functioning is really is the brain, the process the brain does when we're breaking in steps to complete a task.
Okay.
Right, so for someone that's neurotypical, that is seamless. They don't really think about the steps they're taking to complete a task. It just happens naturally. But if you're autistic, it doesn't work that way. We need clear transparency, communication within the steps. We need to see them and understand what step are we taking in order to complete that task. Now, if I use that as an example in getting ready to go for a run, all those steps that takes me to reach the front door, if my Garmin has no battery, I ain't going on that run. If my AirPods have no battery, I'm not going. If I don't find my trusted t-shirt out of the 50 that I have, I'm not going to go on that run, right? There's so many things that can inhibit us from just getting out the door, because if one of those steps goes wrong, everything's up in the air and it's kind of a broken process. So that's a big piece of kind of getting to the door and going on that run. But for me personally as well, I remember when I ran London, I lapped Regent's Park for 6 months of training, because that was the predictability. It's what I knew. It was proximity, and that's all I did. Now, I hate Regent's Park now because I can't go back. But on the other hand, I spend silly amount of hours on the treadmill because it's predictability again. It's the same environment, same temperature regulation. I know where my things are. So it's something that really helps me get out that door. And sometimes I've felt guilty because I'm like, I know being on the treadmill 24/7 isn't the best way to get better. But it's what I can do. And that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. So it's just taking those steps that you know are challenging and trying to put a processes in place, such as finding my Garmin charger and just making sure it's charged before I go on a run, I think is the difference between someone that's neurotypical and someone that's autistic. We're back running.
We are back on the run. Variety. Do it on your own terms, as you say. No, I think that's so interesting and useful, because as you say, we can take things for granted as well. But I suppose what I took from that for maybe people even neurotypical is to plan things out that you think might cause you to not go for that run, and also focus on what you can control if it is going for that treadmill run, whether that's if it's inside, if you think that weather is going to be too extreme or it's too warm on a day like this.
Yeah, and it's like it's trial and error as well. It's not taking other experience, because I can say this is what works for me.
Yeah.
But I know myself, if my run doesn't happen in the morning, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Because the day happens, I'm too tired, and I'm never going to go for the run in the evening. Some people might want to do it in the evening, and that works for them. So it is truly kind of finding what works for you best and sticking to that.
Yeah. So aside from what we've spoken about so far, when it comes to whether this is for someone who's neurodivergent, who's wanting to work on their fitness, their running or day-to-day life, what's one thing you think they could do to work on or within their control that's going to help them with this linked to their mindset and their mind or well-being?
Just baby steps. Take it easy. I think it's the main recommendation. It's the same way that we see, running growing as a trend and more people running, which is so good.
Yeah.
But then you quickly see people running a marathon when they've been running for 6 months and do like 3:30.
Yeah.
We shouldn't normalize that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Right. And in my eyes, they're freaks of nature. So if people see that, it's easy to get or demotivated or think you can't do that or you're not part of it or you're much slower, whatever that might be, the doubting thought.
Yeah.
It's just baby steps and do it on your own terms.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself.
Nice. Right, let's move into some quick fire questions then.
I'm a yapper. I don't do good with short questions, so I'll try.
You're in the right place. First question. What advice would you give to a fellow neurodiverse person who's thinking about getting into running but feeling uncertain or nervous?
Slowly, wins the race. Do it with company and do it on your own terms. There's the main three things I would say. That was short enough.
It was. I mean, we could have gone for longer, but I appreciate the poignant steps there. Do you mind just repeating that one more time, actually?
Yeah, so slowly.
Yep.
Start slow, build it into your routine. Kind of longevity is what you're trying to achieve.
Yep.
Second, do it with people.
Yep.
And what I mean by people, just your support network around you.
Yeah.
If no one in your family runs, ask them to jump on the bike.
Yeah.
Go around the block, come back home. And thirdly, it's do it on your own terms. You don't need to race.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you don't need to do London Marathon because it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Choose another race in the country.
Yeah.
There's very good organised races out there. So, yeah, just on your own terms.
Nice. Next one. What is the best piece of advice you've received from someone else that's helped you with your running journey so far?
You against you is something that my mom taught me. And the reason why that's so important is because we all have our own experiences and running is it's a long game.
Yeah.
Some people see progress, as I mentioned, and be like, wow, I can do that. Like some people that you see lining up at London have been running since they're 10 years old.
Yeah.
So comparison is something that you shouldn't bake into your running journey.
Yep.
It's you against you, and you're fighting against being better, being consistent, and just seeing your own progress is the rewarding piece of it. That's what I took from my mama bear.
Nice. Our parents are often the wisest, aren't they?
They really are.
What helps you self-regulate during the run itself?
Ooh, calling me out on this. I think two things. So my stimming is quite low-key.
Yeah.
As part of being a woman, late diagnosed, it all makes sense. But some things that I do is I hum very quietly when I'm in the wave. That helps me block out the noise. I just focus on the repetitiveness of the noise that I'm making.
Yeah.
And then second, whilst I'm running, it's breathing. I am so bad at breathing. And I realized that when I started running, the reason why I couldn't run more than 200 meters was because I wasn't breathing properly.
Yeah.
So it's focusing on that kind of, if it works to count,
Yep.
if it works based on steps, whatever your process is, but that's really helped me finish a half
Yeah.
or finish the marathon. So yeah, just breathing and humming
Nice.
is for me.
Breathing and humming, I think, particularly the breathing part is applicable for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even outside of running, we forget sometimes, and we can get so overwhelmed or stressed, and
Yeah, just
taking a couple of deep breaths, I think, can help reset you.
100%.
And final quick fire question: favourite song that helps you feel calm?
Oh, that's easy. Hans Zimmer is my go-to 24/7. So when I was working through that frustration of being diagnosed,
Yeah.
whilst I was lapping Regent's Park, the main song I would listen to was Cornfield Chase, which is the soundtrack of Interstellar.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you ask what calms me, that just brings emotion out.
Yeah.
If you play it, I'll probably cry. But the feeling that I have after is just instant calmness.
Yeah.
So funny enough, whenever I'm feeling a bit all over the place, I just play it and it just regulates me. So yeah, I love it. Something people don't know about me, very few people, is that I'm classically trained. So I've always had an interest in classical music, orchestra, and any form of music in that area. So he's my one and only. That's what I would say.
Nice. So Lara, thank you so much for joining me today. I could chat to you for hours about this and
Same,
probably
I really
still want to learn
enjoyed
more.
this.
So thank you so much for sharing your experience. And as you say, I think the more it's great to have people like yourself talking about this and not just bringing awareness, but normalising that conversation.
For sure.
So if you want to find out more about Lara and what she's been talking about today and don't follow already, you'll find all the details in the comments below. And also let us know in the comments if anything in particular resonated with you, any questions or any other topics you want to hear about on future episodes. But Lara, thank you very much for running together.
It's been a pleasure.
And see you soon.
Likewise. Thank you.